Oh, my history-bounding lovelies. Have you ever wanted to go to museums and look at all the extant historical garments that they have, but you really don't want to get jet lag? Well, you can use their online museum collections. You can do your searches from the comfort of your own couch. Hello, my name is Althea, and I'm here to talk about sewing, having ADHD, and all things history-bounding. Today, I wanted to share with you some of my favorite online museums and the collections that they have and how you can use them to do some of your historical costume research. We may not be close to the museums, but we can bring those museums to us through the internet. And one thing to remember is that you can reach out to museum staff, and I found that they are usually very helpful and quite eager to geek out with you no matter what your question is. Some of the museums offer their images in the public domain, which means you can basically use them any way that you want. Other images are copyrighted, so there are restrictions on their use. When it comes to the quality of the images that you're going to find, your mileage is going to vary. Some museums are better at providing high resolution images that you can zoom right in, see all of those really intricate details. Some of them show the inside of the garments. Others are not so forthcoming with these high resolution images, but reach out to the museum because you might be able to purchase high resolution images. The Metropolitan Museum of Art is usually very good at providing these high res, very zoomable images, and they are in the public domain. And if you find a garment that you want more information on or higher resolution image for, reach out to the museum because you can oftentimes purchase high resolution images. I remember back when I was working on my master's degree on the apparel of the frontier prostitute, black and white 8x10 photographs, they were real photographs back then, were about 20 bucks a pop. So you had to search and make sure that they had these images. The internet was very, very young then, and it wasn't easy to search. We didn't have Google at that time. And so you would write to the museum and ask if they had these high resolution photographs, and then you would purchase them. Museums may also have images online that they don't have on display in the museums. I usually filter my searches to only show things that have images. I figure that's a great starting point. If I really want to dig into their collection, I can look at the entries without images. Many of you are probably familiar with doing searches. Most of the search engines on these websites are fairly simple, so you're going to have a fairly limited ability to really key in through the search function. A lot of times it's just a basic search and then you can filter for different ones. I'll show you how the Met uses that. So I'm going to be talking about, to me, the big three, the Met, the Kyoto Costume Institute, and the Victoria Albert Museum. And then I'm going to share with you some smaller and regional museums that have really interesting collections that tend to focus on their own region. So if you're interested in a specific country or time period, go search for museums that might have online images in that area. So let's pop on over to the museums. I'm going to share my screen with you, and make sure you ask questions down in the comments below, and especially if you know super secret museums that have great online collections, let us know down in the comments. We're going to start at the Metropolitan Museum, or otherwise known as the Met. A lot of times these museums have exhibitions that pull out a specific theme or topic. And the Met currently has one called the Lexicon of Fashion for the Americas. And a lot of times these exhibition images are not quite as, detailed as other images. They're not very zoomable, but some museums might have that. So if we go look at the collection, this is where really the magic happens. So you can use phrases like costume or fashion or dress, adornment, textiles. You might have to play around with some of those search terms. I usually start with costume. And then with the Met, you can sort by geographic area. So I picked Alaska in this one. The images aren't really zoomable. A lot of times you'll see that the rights to this image are held by someone else. So it's not super zoomable, but it's a really great resource for starting. You might find out who owns that copyrighted image and go to there. So you can also sort by date. And so this is a doublet from the early 1600s, and the Met is wonderful. You can really zoom in on these details. You can see that they use buttonhole stitch a lot in this garment for edging. There is a lot of really lovely close detail. You can really zoom in on those buttons and see how they're made. And then the Met is really good about giving us front and side images. And so you can, move all around and look at those. So another one of the museums that I really like to check out is the Kyoto Costume Institute. And they have some really intriguing entries. A little bit lacking in this website is that the images are not terribly zoomable. Can't get in really, really close. But again, consider reaching out to the museum if that's something that you're interested in and seeing if you can purchase high resolution images. The next one is the Victoria Albert Museum, and here we have another exhibition that I kind of wanted to point out. I would give my eye teeth to be able to go over and see this particular exhibition. It's men's dress and fashioning menswear and masculinity through dress. And I just think that'd be a great exhibition to go check out. So when we're looking at the collection, sometimes they have different themes that they are putting forward on their website, and this one is on underwear. Some of the images are a little more zoomable than others. This particular one is not terribly zoomable. Let's go look at this knitted bra. It's much more zoomable, and you can get in really, really close. And the V&A has these little write-ups for sometimes these themes that gives you a little bit more background on what the topic is. I do not need another craft. I do not need another craft. I do not need to learn how to knit. Oh my God. Yes, I do not need another craft. But this website, you can really zoom in close, so you could probably figure out the pattern and how to make that garment. But when we're looking at their wider collection, again, just searching for the term costume, it brings up a real wide selection of possible images. So you can start to look at ways you can filter it down. So I just picked clothing here. Again, you can see this is a really wide range of different types of things. So you can narrow it down. For instance, this is Jean Paquin. They're images from the early 1900s. You can, sort by different categories. You can sort by place, and you can select so that only entries with images are shown. And so this one, again, you can zoom in really close. Not all images you can zoom this close. You just kind of have to hope for the best. And many of the entries have a lot of information on what the garment is, where it's from, what it was acquired. Some museums have more information. They might give you a little bit of information on techniques of construction or backgrounds of materials or a little bit into the time period that article is from. So if we look at another way to filter it, we can select Italy. And so this is a collection of drawings from the early 19th century. You can also filter by date. Now this garment, you can zoom in fairly close, but not as close as I'd really like to see. Those are the big three museums. Let's look at some of the regional museums. When it comes to some of these smaller regional museums, the quality of the images can be really hit and miss. This one has lovely images, but you can't really zoom in on them. Again, this is an instance, if you're interested in that garment, reach out to the museum so that you can see if they have images that you can purchase. And this is the next museum, so their look is a little bit different. Let's look at this one. Goodness gracious. So this one, again, not zoomable, but they do give you fairly close-up images, so you can kind of see what's going on with the cut work. And this museum, again, is a little bit different. They organize it by dates as opposed to having a search function. These regional museums are really good for finding garments that were worn in that area. So because I have ADHD, I really need to work to stay organized. I've only recently been diagnosed, so that means much of my life I've struggled with this. It's been really helpful for me to learn how ADHD brains work so that I'm not constantly fighting myself. I find that I really work best when I can consolidate my information into one hub, one source. And so I've been using Notion recently to do this, and I have found it really helpful for making sure that I'm not having anything fall through the cracks, because then I can have everything in one place. I tried different systems before, Trello and Excel, Google spreadsheets, and that may work for you, but I have found that Notion really works well for me because it's very configurable. It took me a while to figure out how to use it because it is not at all intuitive. But once I got the hang of it, I was able to, create a dashboard that really works for me. So let's pop over to Notion and I can show you my dashboard and how I organize things when I'm doing a research project in historical costuming. So this is my dashboard, and I have what I call the Library of Alexandria, where I have a whole bunch of notebooks. The great thing about Notion is we can have these databases, and so I just created this one for 1600s. I have a lot of my images sort of organized in Pinterest. When I'm searching a museum, I will pin the image into my Pinterest board, but Pinterest really isn't good for storing data. So that's just a spot where I keep images that I want to be able to go back to. Let's look at this process. So I'll go over to Pinterest and find the garment that I want to look at, in this case, this lovely, lovely sweater. And that will take me right to the museum. I recommend checking out this museum. It has some really great images of their artifacts. So I'll save an image of this garment. I'm not planning on using it for anything other than personal research. So I'll save it. I don't worry about getting the highest resolution image for this. This is just a reference so that I can, if necessary, go back and look at this garment. The thing I like about this museum is you can really zoom in on the garments. And these knitted sweaters were worn in the 1600s, largely for informal wear at home, but I have just fallen in love with them. Yeah, I don't need another craft. I don't need another craft. I don't need another craft. But oh my God, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. That metal thread over the beautiful light blue silk. That is a sexy, sexy sweater. So this is where I go and grab some of the information to put into my database. So I'll create a new entry for it and start with the name. Then I will go back and capture when it was used. So I'll just spend some time putting the information from the museum entry into my database. And then I have this multi-select, so I can select what the material is. I already have silk in there from the last sweater that I used, so I can put in that there are metal threads and metal sequins. And this gives me a list of common materials so that I don't have to type this in every single time. Bonus. So I'm pretty sparse on what I keep in my databases in Notion, mainly because I also capture the URL so that I can go back to it. And then I will put an image into the document, put the image also into the cover, and I'll give it an icon. Been using this sort of t-shirt for the sweaters. So that's what it looks like in a table. This is what it looks like with a card view. I use this view oftentimes for Kanban boards. So this is the gallery view. So this is what it looks like when I pull up this notebook. There are a lot of different ways that you can organize your costuming research. This is just one way that I do it. And this is really not even the end result of my research. I do use other tools such as Zotero and Google spreadsheets to collect notes in if I'm actually looking to write an article or do something that tends to be a little bit more scholarly. So my approach might be different in that instance. But this is a great way of just collecting it all together so that I know where to find these things. I hope this helps you find new resources to help you in your historical costume research. You can go look at these online and then maybe someday visit the museums to look at the garments yourself. Don't be shy about reaching out to the museums if you're interested in one of their pieces in their collection. If you would like a longer list of museums that have online collections, I'll share a link to a Google spreadsheet in the description below so that you can go check that out. I have URLs for them. Please let me know if any of them are broke, because you know how the web is, it's just constantly changing. And if you know of a good online collection that's not in the list, please let me know. This is a living document, so as you guys give me more information, I'm going to be putting it into this document, so you might bookmark it so you have it on hand whenever you need it. And if you liked this video, you might check out this playlist right here. And until next time, get vaxxed, stay safe, and I bid you joy.